4, 3, 2, 1. I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I can help myself. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
For 7 decades, Michael Caine has been among the world's most renowned and recognisable actors.
It was just what I needed. A 1-inch god with a 2-inch penis.
The star of classics like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, and The Cider House Rules.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
But also films that brought his career to the brink of complete implosion.
I made a mistake.
Somehow, he has always found a way back.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape. With me, it's a full-time job.
In this epic podcast series, we will watch and review every Michael Caine movie, from the greatest hits
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
to the incredible misses,
You failed to maintain your weapon, son.
and take a deep dive into the life and work of one of the world's most recognisable film stars.
His name is Michael Caine, and no one will forget his name.
To understand how he has made the mark of Caine.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. For God's sake, come in.
Hello and welcome to the Mark of Caine, our continuing journey through the uplands and the lowlands of the career of Michael Caine. This is Michael Foley here, and I'm joined as always by Stephen Black from the Mallow News. How are you doing?
Grant.
Good. That's a good solid grand. That's a nice way to start. But I do need to ask you how you've been since Hurry Sundown. If people didn't hear the last episode, Hurry Sundown has been the first, let's just say, troubling movie that we've come across in the career of Caine. I've had a few kind of flashbacks of Burgess Meredith screaming racist epithets in my ear during the night, woken up and sort of in a deep south midsummer cold sweat.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's like one of those disturbing life moments that you just want to move on from, like, I don't know, doing the Leaving Cert or losing your virginity.
Well, we can move on today. I think we both, but I was certainly looking forward to getting away from Hurry Sundown and going back to the calm, safe waters of Harry Palmer and the third installment, which is, of course, $1 Billion Brain.
Saw him Ipcrest in London, almost buried in Berlin.
Where you going now?
Helsinki.
Now, Harry goes to Helsinki. Temperature, ice cold. Prospects, red hot. Mission, destroy the brain before the brain destroys the world.
Terrible title. It sounds like a sequel to Kurt Russell Disney movie. You know, the sequel to the Computer War 10 Issues.
It is a bad title. It is accurate. Although it's accurate, we never actually get the price of how much the brain.
Yes, you do. He says.
Oh, does he?
It costs $1 billion.
I must have been on my phone. The $1 billion brain, of course, is the supercomputer at the center of all this thing. As you say, it's a third installment of Harry Palmer. Generally considered, I would say, Stephen, to be the weakest by most critics. I'm not sure where I put it. It probably is, but I don't know. We'll get into it. It wasn't too bad. I wasn't upset at the end of it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, tonally it's all over the place, but there are things to like about it. It's definitely the weakest of the three. Yeah,
it is, and it does feel like the end of the road for the inverted commas franchise at the time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's important to say that this is basically the death knell for the series until the 90s, where there were 2 direct TV movies. They kind of fill that out, but that's maybe. That's definitely a conversation, obviously, for another day, but certainly not something we need to worry about now. I think kind of focus, not to get distracted by potential further bumps in the road.
Yes, we've hit a bad pothole last episode. the road is starting to settle down. Let's just ease through $1 Billion Brain and enjoy it for what it is. So, where is Harry at? Harry is now, having been, of course, an MI5 operative, a reluctant MI5 operative. He's now struck out on his own. He's now a small business owner. He's a private investigator.
Yes, he's a private investigator. We catch up with Harry very quickly. He's living above a shop in, I assume, the East End, where he's playing his trade as a private investigator. As the movie opens with somebody breaking into his office and rifling through his things. And you kind of get to see how far Harry has fallen since the first movie. So, of course, in the first movie, Harry is this kind of suave, sophisticated, urbane gourmand, lives in a nice bachelor pad with all the mod cons, Dolly Bird either entering or exiting the flat. In this instance, he's basically living in his office. I don't know how that works because the bed is actually literally in his office.
It's weird. It's like this kind of, it's one of these kind of classic film noir private eye offices that you walk into, and there's like a glamour girl pin up on the wall. Picture Humphrey Bogart, presumably a nod there from Caine, of course, Humphrey being his favourite actor. But there's cornflakes involved. It gets very mundane very fast.
There's lots of cornflakes everywhere.
Lots of cornflakes, yeah.
And as well, you're in a Ken Russell movie because I think within 30 seconds you see tits.
Yeah. Oh man, yes. There's chests everywhere. And even the mildest sort of kind of suggestion that things are about to get a bit racy, Ken throws in and all, either a piece of classic art, a bit of ancient world nudity, or a pin up or something. It's freaking again, not subtle like.
Yeah, Ken, tits are my thing, Russell.
Yeah, that's a hell of a way to describe the career of one of film's great independent minds right there, isn't it? It's a bit harsh.
Often referred to as an enfant terrible, which I think is French for a giant baby.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Well, look, we get on to Ken Russell. Let's just very quickly the plot, because again, to quote my old friends at the New York Times about Funeral in Berlin being plotsy, this is just nuts. This is just double cross.
Just to clarify for listeners, these are people whose work you read rather than people you have in a WhatsApp group.
Yes, exactly. Yes, very important distinction. So Harry, private investigator, gets delivered this mysterious package, which is a flask, and gets told, take that to Finland, meet a fella, give him the flask. Of course, he checks what's in the flask. It's like 6 eggs injected with a virus. He goes to Helsinki, meets his old buddy, Carl Malden, of course, on the waterfront, streets of San Francisco, Carl Malden. He's working or affiliated to an anti-communist cult called the Crusade for Freedom. Their leader is a complete maniac, frothing fascist, played by Ed Begley. He's got the logo. He's got the Kool-Aid soaked angry mob. He's got the burning torchlit sort of gatherings. He's got it all going on. And he's got a supercomputer that generates data and policy that is all directed towards destroying world communism. In this case, it's going to start an uprising in Latvia and germ warfare in Russia. So that's basically what's going on. There's a load of double crossing, triple crossing. At one point, I counted that Harry was basically working for about 4 different agencies at one time. So he's working for himself, he's working for MI5, he's working for the Russians, and he's working for the Crusade for Freedom. Insofar as everybody sees Harry, they think he's working for them. So it's just a whole thing. It's just a bit of a mess. In the end of it all, he actually gets double-crossed himself in the end of it. The plot ends up, of course, getting foiled. A big, massive army falls into an ice lake, and the Russians actually come out as kind of the heroes for stopping what would have inevitably been a huge global conflict that ended up with everybody scratching themselves due to germ warfare and dying a horrible, horrible death. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty much it. That's it in a nutshell. Again, with the emphasis on a bunch of very confusing double, triple crosses, crisscrosses, gonna make you jump crosses. It's very, very confusing, and not very confusing from the point of view as, wow, this is so Byzantine, I can't actually figure out what's going to, it's just going, we're not going to actually do the groundwork of making any of this make sense. Just roll with it. Exactly.
It's not that it's a complicated movie to watch. It's just when you, yet again, as we found now with these 3 Harry Palmer movies, when you have to start explaining them to someone, like if you went to the cinema and saw $1 Billion Brain and went to the pub and met someone afterwards, so what's that about? You'd be there for an hour if you actually try to explain it, rather than just going, look, I'll tell you what it is. It's just an awful lot of people overacting and Caine basically cruising around them, kind of slaloming through it all, kind of raising his eyebrow, a couple of smart arse remarks in his natural Cockney accent, which was so wonderful to hear after the horror again of the Deep South accent in Hurry Sundown. Just doing his thing. He's fine in it, but the movie is all over the shop.
I would be tempted to suggest that maybe he spent an awful lot of this movie drunk. I think he smiles more in this movie than any other movie that he's made. He just seems kind of, I'm just, camera's rolling, whatever. You're saying a line, I'm reacting to it. Let's get this done. I've got to piss off to Paris and woo Shirley MacLaine while staying in a 5-star hotel. So this is hell for me.
That's right. It is. It gets to the point where it's all shot. Most of it's shot in Finland, and it's clearly, and I'm obviously Baltic, but Baltic cold. I did read somewhere where there was a scene where Caine was to jump into freezing ice cold water. And it just, in a kind of a portent of things to come in his later years, he just went, "No, I'm not doing that." And you know what? He was dead right. There's no need to be jumping into icy water. A lot of parts of this film are just, he's just getting through it. But he's getting through it in a sort of a relaxed sort of way. It's like, yeah, Harry Palmer, this is a thing I do. I'm Harry Palmer.
Yeah, again, perfectly fine. Nothing remarkable about it from a performance perspective, except that he does smile a hell of a lot more. He appears to be enjoying himself as Harry Palmer on screen, even if the movie making process itself wasn't that enjoyable.
No, you had an interesting point about the credits. I quite like the credits. To me, they remind me a bit of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or something. In
the same way the last movie had strong Bond connections with Guy Hamilton directing it. In this movie, the credits are done by Maurice Binder, who was responsible for doing the majority of all the early 60s Bond movies. He did the credits for all of those. So you expect a really high standard, but this kind of was really substandard Bond, really kind of Confessions of a Window Cleaner, kind of pictures of Caine, peering over some Dolly Bird's shoulder, while somebody very inefficiently pretends to press buttons on the supercomputer.
I tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me of something you'd see on TV. It was like the opening credits for a TV show.
Yeah, it wasn't of a movie standard. It was it was
no.
TV. And I wonder, is it Ken Russell's TV roots showing that he
totally
didn't really have the nous to actually talk to Binder or get him to, present something and not phone something in? I think that's the fundamental thing with this movie, is that Ken Russell, as you say, had more of a TV background. He obviously already had a fine reputation in 1967. He did $1 Billion Brain. $1 Billion Brain, I suppose, in modern terms, would have been a blockbuster. It was a big name, big franchise. He was doing it so he could kind of raise money, or not so much raise money, but get the nod to do things he wanted to do. And it kind of comes across. I saw a very interesting review somewhere where it was described that Russell had a way in this of making big, potentially epic things look small on screen, which I think is absolutely right. You see it in various different ones. He uses a lot of handheld camera. It's a lot of actors, very 60s, and it's good. It's good. It works on the small screen. I'd say it was a head wrecker watching it on a big screen, all this handheld stuff. But definitely, it's Caine picking a project with good people in it, but they don't gel at all, really, don't they? Not. It just doesn't click. No, I think Caine acknowledged as well. He liked Ken Russell and got on with Ken Russell more afterwards than during the film, that he wasn't the right guy for the job. I think at this day and age, you see an awful lot of art house directors making the transition from independent movies to Marvel. Have a good track record of this now. So they get good independent movie directors, but they bring them in and they have this whole framework. So they don't make clunkers as such. They have this whole framework going, you have to conform to, and you have to work within the limitations of our enterprise in order to make the movie. Whereas with Ken Russell, I think it was given more free reign here. Yeah. And it shows on the screen. There's lots of really interesting imagery being used here. Mm-hmm. Also, an awful lot of really confusing edits as well. There's the one where Harry is making a phone call to book a room in a hotel, and next it cuts to him. You'd imagine the next scene, Harry at the hotel. It's all set up to that. But next you cut to him going through a phone book trying to figure out where Dr. Caine lives. This is a scene obviously before he goes off and finds his first dead body in the movie. Again, a man in the nip with a mysterious. A man in the nip, surrounded by titty wallpaper. That's right. By the way, titty wallpaper would be a tremendous Bond girl name.
Oh my god! It's the Bond movie. It's the Bond movie that should have been made 40 years ago with titty wallpaper in it.
She's Francoise Dorliac, and she knows just what she's about.
Who ordered you to kill me?
I had to do it. It was an order from the brain.
Get out!
The brain thinks better. The brain talks better. This is where the billion-dollar brain lives, where the people who feed it play, where the man who pays for its keep rules.
There are some baffling, as you said, there are some lovely things, but there are some baffling things. But there's even some very basic things. For example, it leapt out at me. There's a scene where he goes into a sauna. Now, he's wearing furs and the big hat, the big woolly hat and the whole thing. He goes into the sauna and he's not even sweating inside the sauna. There's also another scene that should be really disturbing, right? It's like Harry wakes up in a bath, but the bath is full of dead bodies, people that he was working with just in the previous scene or he was operating with. But he wakes up in this bath of dead bodies and he pulls himself out of it and kind of gets out and kind of dusts himself down, fixes his hair and a Russian officer comes in and he prepares himself to have a fight with him. But the Russian officer takes off his jacket, so Harry's getting ready. The Russian officer goes in and has a shower and he kind of just walks out of the shower block. And you're kind of going, could we not have kind of just taken, could we not have taken a few seconds just to realise what just happened here?
Well, I think
or
that goes
use this later?
It's this again. It's the bizarre shifts in tone all over the place. It's like he wakes up in a bath of dead bodies, like the worst stag on record. Gets out. There's kind of this bizarre slapstick piece where you think that the Russian guard is going to start, torturing him, and then these two Russian heavies come in and grab him, and again you think, oh, okay, he's going to get the crap beaten out of him here. But then they proceed to basically give him a spit clean to make sure that he's all dolled up before he leaves.
They very gently, carefully dab his forehead in a very motherly way.
The humor in here is very Carry-On Spying, again, which kind of I don't mind it that much, but it just really, it doesn't sit with the overall tone of the film.
I think the problem with the Harry Palmer franchises, and again, Caine is not to blame necessarily for this, although by the time we get to the third one, you would have thought he may have been able to pipe up. I think the problem is that, like you said there about the Marvel concept, right? There's a structure, there's a framework, you go in, and there's a set kind of way of doing it. With Harry, there was never a set way. So, he starts in the first episode, or the first installment, the Ipcris file, as you mentioned earlier, a guy with really fancy kettles and pots and a real gourmand. By the end of it, all of that's gone. And it's kind of like, I don't even know what he is by the end of it. It's completely different directors, different sort of ways of doing it. You can kind of see why the whole thing fell apart, really.
Yeah, I mean, the Bond again would have always had the Guardians of Cubby Blockaway. Mm-hmm. Sorry, this is a terrible speech impediment there. Sorry, Cubby Broccoli would have basically ruled those movies with an iron fist in terms of what you can and what you can't do. This is what Bond is. This is what Bond isn't. Harry Palmer was basically, get these movies out as quick as possible. I think 3 movies in the space of 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Not much care given for the character's growth or a character arc or anything like that. Yeah. Actually, an awful lot like the recent Star Wars prequels as well. It's kind of going different director in each one. No overarching linking theme between the 3 of them.
Yeah, just bash him out because he's popular, and let's just do it. What did you make of the computer?
I think one of the most confusing points of this, if you took the computer out of this movie, it would make absolutely no difference to the plot. As far as the computer basically makes the occasional phone call to operatives to give them instructions, but all the data that it's given is given to them by people. Just to put it in the context that this is 1967, and I think one of the reasons why it may have put people off watching is it would have been so fantastical to anyone that computers, which at that time were primarily used for basic calculations, would be in a position to be so powerful that they would be able to orchestrate, let's be honest, one of the worst invasions in history. Yeah. So if there's all this, again, all of this would have been very high tech at the time in terms of what they were trying to convince people that a computer could do this. It was a bit probably too far fetched in terms of getting an audience, in terms of suspending an audience's level of disbelief. So again, you could take that out and you'd still have the same, it would make no overarching difference to the plot, except you'd have to explain $1 billion brain. it's a terrible title anyway. So
it's a terrible. You could, if you lost a computer, you could lose the title. Win-win.
Yeah, no, obviously computers brought people to the moon, but they were fed data, primarily drafted, calculated by human beings. Like, so, they were read online, basically, your average Furby has more computational power than anything produced in the 60s.
Get out of town.
And as well, I mean, if you look at the whole part of the plot where Carl Malden is trying to change records or alter records in the computer is just like the amount of knowledge that you'd have to have about a computer and how a computer works in order for Carl Malden's character to go in and make all those changes would have been just absolutely ridiculous. It's just that, it sounds like a nerd, but I mean, the amount of computer knowledge that he'd have to go in and do that would be basically, he wouldn't have enough time to spend, to spend riding all around Finland with his missus,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he'd want to be basically the kind of, the Alan Turing of his day. Like, and of course, it is that classic late 60s computer that like takes up 20 warehouses. And, Ed Begley is, as we said, this kind of maniac leader kind of ranting around the place. But, grim enough to say that, in the intervening years, I'd say the Ed Begley character probably lost its sort of relevance to any era, but it kind of did have a little bit of there was a resonance when you're watching it in 2021, I thought anyway.
Oh yeah, you some big white guy frothing at the mouth about communists and the danger to America's sovereignty or the world's sovereignty, I guess, from the Red Menace. I mean, it's really like an InfoWars foghorn leghorn.
That was pretty much it, yeah.
And his speech he gives about love. You don't know what love is. Let me tell you about my love. You could see all the lads in the background going, oh, Jesus, he's not giving the love speeches. It's 5 minutes to lunch. Today's fried chicken and all. It'll be got all soggy by the time I get in.
Yeah, it's just everything about it was like, 60s Alex Jones.
And there was nothing subtle about it. You've all the kind of superimposed images of flaming torches in the background, and it was all the fascistic, even the cult's insignia or symbol was very much like the Iron Eagle from the SS's Iron Eagle. So nothing subtle about it. It was all these guys are the devil. A very pro-communist movie, by the way. Very pro-communist. Ultimately, the communists are the one who have the upper hand all the way through this. Ultimately, they're the ones who file the plot. I think I made this point to you in again going to our fourth wall breaking segment here. When I was texting you, kind of going, it's the same thing in common with the Raiders of the Lost Ark, in that you could take Indiana Jones out of that movie and the ending would still be the same. This is a long-standing theory that ultimately Balak would have found the Ark, would have opened it, and everybody would have had a melty face.
Yeah.
And that would have been it.
You did right.
But whereas, like, the only thing there is, like, again, Sonny Gennard, Marion Ravenscroft's character would probably have been killed off, and that would have been terrible, because that means she would have been able to make an appearance in the wonderful fourth movie, The Kingdom of the fucking Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my
back to $1 Billion Brain.
You could take Harry Palmer out of this movie, and the ending still would have been the same. The Russians still would have foiled the plot, and the same people would have ended up dying in it. It's bizarre. Like you say, it's kind of Harry meanders from scene to scene, doesn't really contribute much to anything, reacts to stuff, and gets knocked unconscious. That's really it. Get a concussion, try to get off with Carl Malden's missus, and get a pay rise. Basically,
yeah. And I mean, and also he once again is adjacent to death rather than actually killing anyone. But I mean, the body count in this is massive. Like, it's by far and away the biggest body count of any of the Palmer movies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound bloodthirsty, but you'd expect the spy will actually kill somebody at some stage.
Yeah.
Even when he's driving the car, when there's a couple of car chases in this, really, even if he ran over a pedestrian by accident, you kind of go, well, at least you can mark one up to Harry there, but there's not even that.
No, I mean, an entire army gets annihilated at the end, and he's nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do. He wakes up in a bath of bodies. Nothing to do with it. I mean, nothing. He's right beside mass murder that's going on, but he doesn't actually kill anybody. Which is, like you said, you'd expect a spy would take someone out with, I don't know, a drop of poison into a martini or something. Anyway, just to sort of, earn his corn, as it were.
No, nothing like that. No.
Nothing at all. I think they should have had more Colonel Ross as well. Colonel Ross being his boss from MI5. I mean, the opening scene that we mentioned in the film noir style office, and Ross is there trying to get him to come back to MI5 and do a bit of work. it's to me, it's by far and away the best scene in the film. And I miss Ross. He's probably my favorite character over the whole 3 films.
Oh, he's a proper prick. I mean, you've that opening scene where he tries to tempt Harry back to MI5 with a pay rise, and when that doesn't work, he basically blackmails Harry into joining MI5 again because he's been found in the company of a dead body and would be quite happy to pin the murder on him if he doesn't rejoin.
Yeah, but he's a great character. He's just a great character. And I mean, ultimately, at the end of it all, I mean, you talk about, the anti-Bond, yet again, it seems to be a thing with the Palmer movies. He gets screwed at the end as well. So he loses the girl that he got, by the way, in typical Palmer style, after about 15 seconds of the movie.
Oh, the lob and the gob on the ferry, just meets your one takes him the ferry over to meet Carl Malden, and within seconds, they're lobbing the gob at each other. Your one is a bit unhinged in this movie as well. I'm not quite sure what the story with her character is. I mean, she's having an affair with Carl Malden's character, but she's also a Russian double agent. And at one stage, Carl Malden is asked by this supercomputer to assassinate her because she's in a Russian uniform, and yet everyone's surprised when she's revealed to be a Russian agent at the end of the movie. Like, Harry's like, "Oh, I didn't see that coming."
Oh,
back
not see that.
What big shock! And she then also tries to. The one chance that Harry Palmer actually has of getting his end away in this is spoiled by the fact that she tries to kill him using acupuncture.
That's right. Explain.
Again, we don't want to go on too much about this because it seems like we're kind of obsessed by matters of the boudoir and sexuality. But there's a scene in this movie where McCain's Harry Palmer is in the early throes of foreplay, and starts off again with the kissing. What's going on with the kissing? He's kissing her eyes. He starts kissing her eyes. That's fucking Ken Russell. I guarantee you. Michael, kiss the eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul. It's a thing. Kiss them. Kiss the eyes away. Eventually finds, like the organ in question, the mouth. I'm a traditionalist at heart, but with that, this way, your one then starts lift up his shirt, and you're kind of going, obviously, nature taking its course, starts to perform the very mildest type of shiatsu massage in his lower back until you figure out that she's looking for a key pressure point, reaches in under the mattress, dislodges a copy of Razzle, takes out this knitting needle and is about to kind of stab Harry in the small of his back before he catches her. And then one of the most kind of discombobulating scene, Harry drags her and locks her into her room, but it takes about 3 fucking minutes for him to do it because Ken Russell's doing his proper shaky camera, what's going on here, before he locks her into her room.
And she's really, and it's not, this is not stunt doubles. Like, this is, they're dragging each other around. Like, it's rough stuff again. It's
authentic. This, like, I just want to bring back to her as well. There's also a bizarre scene, like this, again, a very 60s scene where after that sauna, that wasn't a sauna, the Harry, Carl Malden's character, I'm not going to, is it Mike?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't Carl Malden,
Carl Malden,
Carl Malden and your one are back in the gaff, relaxing after the sauna. Harry has disappeared in one of those bizarre kind of bubble chairs, smoking a fag. Your one is playing the cello really badly.
That's right.
It's a kind of atonal cello that's going on in the background while they discuss their plans.
Yeah,
it's
echoes.
Why is this here?
Echoes of Woody Allen and Take the Money and Run. Just kind of a little creaking at this cello.
Well, at least she was playing it authentic. I see. Again, this is the other theme. You've got I hate to bring us back to Hurry Sundown, but you've got the South. You've got the Deep South with Colonel Sanders and the fucking the Foghorn Leghorn cult. You've got bad sex, and you've got bad music.
You do. It's a move away from Hurry Sundown, but we're not clear of it yet. I wonder, is that more down to us? Are we seeing that? No, we're not. It actually exists in the movie. Bad cello, bad sex, bad Southern accents. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, the one thing I'd say about it, and then we're talking about it, I asked myself when I watched this movie again, and I don't think, if it came up on TV, I probably wouldn't. But that's not to say it's rubbish. Like, I mean, I did get the kind of, there is a nice kind of undercurrent of kind of chaos and sort of the sense that kind of that things could go completely arseways here and the world could explode at all times, which is good. Like, that's Ken Russell, that's good. But I mean, it's sort of, it kind of, from a Caine point of view, it's just meandering along and it's trying to get out the other side. safely, really, isn't it? Is that what we're saying?
I think so. Like, it's two other things I'd like to cover. First of all, is Colonel Stock, the return of Colonel Stock. So
Yes. English.
The laughing Russian.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much. I mean, this. You could look at this as the third in the Harry Potter, the third in the Harry Palmer trilogy, or the second in the Colonel Stock duology. Because basically, in Funeral in Berlin, Colonel Stock is the guy who gets his way, outmaneuvers MI5 and outmaneuvers Harry Palmer. And this movie, he's exactly the same. He's in control the whole time. He's the one who foils the plot ultimately. He's the one whose agent is in place well before things get going. So, as I said, Palmer completely superfluous to this. Colonel Stock is the one. Like, that's, again, what the fuck? Like the scene where Colonel Stock visits Harry in his hotel room, and Colonel Stock comes in wearing a butler's tuxedo, apparently a butler's tuxedo, but apparently it's that fancy hotel that the staff wear tuxedos. Comes in, proceeds to disrobe, because he's gone in there in disguise because he doesn't want Russian intelligence to know he's in there. Proceeds to disrobe while talking, and then reveals that he has his full general's outfit in under the cloche on the room service trolley, and just gets slowly dressed and then disappears out the fucking fire. You kind of go, could you not just climb up the fire escape in the first fucking place rather than go through this farce?
Did you have to undress in front of Caine, who actually gets out of the bed? We mentioned in the previous episode, I think, that we haven't seen Caine's legs yet. We didn't see Caine's legs in this either because he was wearing a rather fetching set of long johns.
We can only assume he has them.
We're just guessing at this stage that he is limbed. But look, very strange, very strange. Just want to finish off that point. I was like he does get screwed in every which way. Like, I mean, he loses the girl, right? His small business goes to the wall. He ends up back at MI5 by the end, and he's on crap money. So, like, at least that much of Palmer was kept, that it all ends in a heap.
Yeah. Just back to your one as well. Her last line to him, again, just going to show how fucking nuts she is. Goodbye, Harry. We would have made nice babies together. It's like he didn't even get the chance. The first chance you got to make babies when they tried to fucking kill him. That's not how babies are made. If there's something fundamentally wrong in communist Russia's fucking family planning or sexual health fucking education system. It's like, first of all, he kisses your eyes, then he kisses your mouth, then you embed a knitting needle in the small of his fucking back. Next thing you know, you're pregnant.
Apparently, that's the way they did it in communist Russia. I don't know. That's all I could learn from it.
I suppose they are tougher than us.
They are much tougher. In fairness, it should be remarked that the woman in question was Françoise de Lauriac, who was Catherine Deneuve's sister. So her last film role, she was killed in a car crash, 5 or 6 weeks after $1 Billion Brain finished up, or maybe when $1 Billion Brain came out, I'm not sure. But that was it. She was on the verge of becoming a big star, and I guess again.
Yeah, was she though?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I was just looking at her.
On the verge of getting more acting roles. I don't know about the verge of being a big star. If this is any, I mean, obviously tragic death, but at the same time, not a very good actress in this.
Yeah, it wasn't a great performance from her, to be fair.
This is the Russian Harry Palmer met in Berlin.
English, how good to see you.
It's the first time I've ever had a Russian spy on room service.
The Brain versus Caine. Michael Caine.
My brain says the hour is at hand, and my brain is never wrong. I love my country, and my dream is to make the thing I love strong. Strong! Strong! Strong!
I know one of the other things that really caught your eye, because you're a fan of a good invasion.
Oh, absolutely. Invasions are my top three things. If it's overthrowing a government, if it's viruses attacking my nervous system, anything like that, I'll go a good invasion. Yeah,
you love that stuff. What did you make of this invasion? The invasion of Latvia that happens. The invasion of Latvia. I'm not going to say any more. I don't need to say any more.
Right. So the cultists are all getting into Finland via Foghorn Leghorn's oil tankers. So they're loading them up. They're bringing all the troops into Latvia that way. Yes, that's my understanding.
The troops, by the way, who are all dressed for some reason with their helmets on like sperm.
They all look like sperm, or like Mike TV in Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
Just before he's dissolved. So you have the scene of we'll generously say hundreds of cast members or extras gathering in a courtyard while Ed Begley does his best Patton
by addressing them from a balcony and telling them to go give the Reds what for. And you just go, all these guys look like sperms.
Yeah, they're sperma.
And now, obviously, the key thing is they all get there dressed to the nines as sperms with their weapons, with their missiles. They arrive on site and then decide, you know what? Now is the time for discretion. Let's all hide in these tooled up oil tankers.
Yeah, in these big, huge, white, tooled-up oil tankers before we disgorge ourselves from these oil tankers when we reach Russia.
Now, it's very important because
they are ejaculated from the back of the trucks, as it were.
Basically, as it was, and a premature one, as it turns out. But obviously, the key thing to any invasion, I know you'll back me up with this, is that if you have any force, it's to really just concentrate them in one area.
Yes.
So if you have all these hundreds, so basically, a very discreet convoy of white oil tankers, again driven by guys dressed as sperms, driving their way across we can only the outskirts of Finland into Latvia. I don't know my geography, don't correct me, I'm right. And this is part of the invasion. Then they are attacked by Russian planes. Now, Russians are very clever. They bomb the ice because the lads are driving on ice. Again, all in a straight line. They get bombed by the Russians. Russians break the ice and all the lads drown. And obviously, because of budgetary constraints, it's just the same lads drowning over and over again, shot from different angles.
But of course, we have the horror of war with guys hanging on to bits of ice and other fellas pushing them off, and then they fall in, and everybody gets to die in the end of it all. But Harry, of course, is driving like a little red car. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He gets away, gets scot free from that one. But again, this dreadful scene, obviously, again, he mourns the death of his close friend who's double crossed him, Carl Malden, who gets shot in the head. Again, kind of dusts himself off from that one and is okay with that as well. Yeah.
He's got a hell of a mental attitude towards this kind of stuff, I have to say. Even for 1967, like he's brushing stuff off left, right, and centre.
I can't help but feel he's suppressing trauma that may come back to him in a later stage in life and manifest itself in many unfortunate neurological ways.
We can only hope we see some of that in the made-for-TV movies in the 90s.
I'm sure we will. Yeah, just an hour and a half of Harry Palmer just talking about all the stuff that happened to him in the 60s, and just the trauma he felt over the death of his close friend Carl Malden, how he's never been able to hold down a steady job since, how he's had trouble with relationships. I'd watch that.
Harry Palmer on the couch. Yeah, all right. We could do that. So, do we have anything else there? Will we move to the marks for Caine? Or marks out of Caine? I'm still not sure. Is it the marks for Caine or marks out of Caine? Does it matter? Marks out of Caine. Yeah. What are you giving it?
I would give this a generous 5.
I think yes. I was going to actually nearly reach for a 6 because there are nice images in it. Like there are lovely shots and things like that in it. But if we're talking about, and Caine is just cruising. So yeah, I would agree with probably 6, maybe 5. 5 is probably more realistic. All right. So that was $1 Billion Brain, and that's the end of Harry Palmer. As you said, we don't see Harry Palmer again for a long time. Now, for a change of pace, we decided we're going to double up in this episode. So we've done $1 Billion Brain. He did one more film in 1967. It was a very short cameo appearance in a film called Woman Times 7, which was essentially a Shirley MacLaine vehicle. She plays a woman in 7 different sort of short stories, and they're all around love and relationships and so on and so forth. As I say, it's a real vehicle for Shirley MacLaine. Caine appears in the final episode, and he's essentially, when it begins, he is presented basically as a stalker.
Yes, I mean this is a when you say vehicle for Shirley MacLaine, if it was a vehicle, it'd be like one of those fucking electric unicycles that just annoy the balls off you and actually for no actual fucking purpose.
Oh, it's dire stuff. It's real, like it's real. I'm making a movie for my mate, like Yeah. It's just it's bad stuff. Go on anyway.
So yeah, this is the last vignette as such in it, and Shirley MacLaine and Anita Ekberg are playing 2 dolls strolling along the Champs-Élysées, being stalked by a bumbling Michael Caine. And this is essentially it. And as most things, and as transpires in life, I think you'll find, obviously, there seems to be sort of frisson of attraction between Shirley MacLaine's character and Michael Caine. I think it's actually pity that then turns to love within the 10 minutes of this segment. She is stalked by him, finds him somewhat intriguing. He does some of the worst mugging I've ever seen, and I don't mean stealing somebody's belongings. I mean just hamming it up to the camera, trying to do. It's a non-speaking part.
Yeah.
So he does all this terrible sub Charlie Chaplin silent movie mugging for the camera. That is just.
It's one of these things that he goes back to later in his career when he's telling people how to act, that, you know, the use of your face can say much more than even words, and it's all of this, like, he's raising eyebrows and he's smirking,
and he's right. What this says is that what I love about Paris is that the working hours in France are much better than England. I get to lie in for longer, so I can endure a longer hangover. Basically, you start at 10, and finish at 7. And because he had a non-speaking role, he got an extra lie-in the morning. This is what his face says. I'm having a great fucking time. I'm doing fuck all here. But at the same time, like with most of my roles, I'm taking what I do very, very seriously afterwards.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, suddenly it assumes an importance. Like, so I mean, the weird things for me in this little thing was, I mean, maybe it's just looking back from now to then, like. Rather than stopping a gendarme at any point and going, there's been a man following me, and they say this for an hour, they kind of go, oh, he must be hungry. I think that he must be hungry. Is he poor? He's quite intriguing. They go into a cafe, they stop, they watch him, they go out. Now we're going to split in opposite directions. Let's see who he follows. And Shirley MacLaine, of course, as you say, it's about relationships and adultery and so on. And she's made the point that she's married and she's never been attracted to another man. But suddenly she's attracted to this, frankly, weird ball stalker who then gets onto a tram with her and basically bumps up against her, kind of does a bit of sort of, you know, lad, you don't need to be that close. Like, you can back up a small bit. But she's happy out with this, which is, again, a bit bizarre. She goes in, she tries to not be noticed by staring into the front window of a power tool shop, ends up buying a power tool, goes home. Husband is home. She looks out the window. Of course, Caine is wandering around in snowy Paris. Of course, it's somehow snowed during this whole thing, and she's intrigued by this gentleman. And of course, it turns out that he's actually a private investigator hired by the husband to follow her around, and that's why he was following her around. Ta-da!
Yeah. What was the fucking point of this? I mean, it's like somebody spunked this off of the fucking writer's room, 5 minutes before quitting time. Very bizarre. No, I'm quite happy with spunk.
No, that's fine. No, I wasn't going to stop you. Sorry.
Yeah, but I tried to interject that. But there is that kind of bizarre frottage scene in the train where you're kind of going, is he rubbing himself off or like?
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah. It really is. Sorry, there. Back up, like, it's not like we're complete. It is busy, but it's not that freaking busy, Do
you have a ticket for that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. Like, it's not good.
The point is that the husband he says he's a jealous man, but now that he's had a private investigator tail her and report that her movements match the story that he's told her, that he can't believe he's such a fool. Blah blah. Like, I'd be more worried for him is that it's a real kind of act of shade, giving your husband a massive tool, like, this is what you're missing in your life. It's a real emasculating move. So hats off to Shirley on that one. Like.
Yeah.
And then it ends with him promising to drill a lot of holes in the apartment. Then again, I don't know if that's supposed to be subtext, text, super text, meta text. I don't know.
I think we're probably reading too much into something that really doesn't exist. I mean, this is we talk about a MacLaine vehicle. I mean, in the other episodes of it, Peter Sellers appears, a young Alan Arkin, Robert Morley. We mentioned Anita Ekberg there as well. And it's another classic case of Caine picking somebody who has a fantastic reputation, and it's just something. I guess it's the kind of thing that 3 years ago he wouldn't have got the opportunity to work with Vittorio De Sica and Shirley MacLaine in a movie. I'll do that, and as you say, I'll get the lie on, and it's Paris, and it's nice, and it's blah blah blah. But the trend is starting to develop already now of picking projects with people that look good on paper but turn out to be absolute muck in reality.
Yeah, not doing your homework, just doing it at face value.
Just doing it. By the way, one last thing. Lord Lucan, famous Lord Lucan, who disappeared, 14, 15 years later, he auditioned for a part in this film. Obviously didn't get it. But there you go. There's a piece of useless information. Do we even offer... If I was doing a mark of Caine for this, I'd be saying 2.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, 2. A generous 2.
A generous 2, yeah.
Hands up, I didn't watch any of the other vignettes in this. I don't recommend anybody else does. Go out and embrace nature. Tell somebody you love them. I don't know. Find better things to do with your time. One thing I forgot to mention is just to say again, go back to Caine and the way he picked projects, is that he was savvy enough after. Well, I say savvy. Ken Russell offered him a role in Women in Love, but Caine refused on the basis that he wasn't going to do any nude wrestling. So again, Caine's bizarre standards. I will take this movie. I will not read the script. I will go film it in Antigua because Antigua is a lovely country. I will enjoy my food. I will make an absolute steaming turd of a movie, but at least I'll be comfortable. But I won't star in a movie that will go down in the history of a film of being a great movie. Women in Love is a great movie. It is one of Ken Russell's best movies, that and The Devils. Yeah. Fantastic movie. But I'll turn it down because, again, I don't want to be getting me off with another bloke.
Yeah, it comes back yet again to the de-gayification question. We cannot get away from the de-gayification question in the 60s with Michael Caine. But you know what? I am glad that we are leaving 1967 now. In 1967, he made Woman Times 7, $1 Billion Brain, and Hurry Sundown. Now, I would not say that $1 Billion Brain is a complete turkey of a film, far from it. But I would definitely say that those 3 films to another actor would burn down a career. Yeah, but it does not happen to this man.
No, Caine reckons it's 5-1. That's the ratio. If you get to 5 clunkers, then you're done. So he reckons he's closest he ever got is 4.5.
Yeah,
I don't know when he comes as the half. But a year of movies like that would kill another actor's career these days. Now, yeah, he's a very lucky boy.
No, he is good. I'll tell you, it must be the Alfie effect. It must be the Alfie effect still in effect. So moving into 1968, and next time round, our next movie is Deadfall. He's a cat burglar, following up on Gambit, similar role again. You've noticed a little trend, I think, in this, have you? With cat burglars and Caine?
He plays a lot of cat burglars, a lot of authors, a lot of playwrights, a lot of spies.
Yeah. Well, he's going to take a break from the spying for a little bit now. So, we will tell you all again, thank you for listening, first of all. Secondly, go find Deadfall online, it's out there. And we will come back here again next time round to talk about Michael Caine in Deadfall. Stephen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll talk again soon.
What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Only nice ones, though. Mean comments will make Alfie cry, and no one wants to see that. The Michael Caine podcast is written, researched, and presented by Stephen Black and Michael Foley, and edited by Andrew Foley. Music is composed by Stephen Black. If you'd like to get in touch, you'll find us on Twitter at Mallow News and at Michael Caine 2. And if you enjoyed this episode, you'll find all the rest wherever you get your podcasts. The Mark of Caine is a Mallow News 2 Cubes production. See you next time.